have a question for each of you about a memorable series for each of you. Jamie, if you could talk more about in '94 when you scored the series clinching goal against Detroit. What was it like to beat that terrific team? And Bryan, how did your 79-80 Islanders beat my hometown Flyers? Because the LCB line, Leach, Clark, Barber, was the best in Flyer history. And the Flyers set a 35-game unbeaten streak, 25-0-10, a record that will probably never be beaten in sports. So how did you beat the Flyers, and how did you beat the Red Wings?
We started the year here in San Jose. It was the first year, actually, at the tank. That's when it became the Shark Tank, and San Jose Arena. And it was just a collection of guys that were kind of cast-offs. We started the year 0-8-1. And then we started, so we were fighting for the just to survive, and then we started to win a few games. We're like, we could maybe make the playoffs, but we were in playoff mode the whole season. And then, you know, we had some key acquisitions at the trade deadline. Ulf Dolan coming over, Todd Ella came over, and just as you said, it slotted everybody. We had the head coach who got used to the system. There was all kinds of issues that year. You know, like Larionov and Makarov wanted to play their way, and then they had the OV line. They added Karpenloff. We did something that very few teams did down the stretch and in the playoffs. It's extremely rare. We played in units of 5. So the fourth line would cycle in, but like I was playing with the same 2 sets of defensemen almost every shift. So a little tougher to change, but it created matchups and different types of matchups. And the one thing that no one realized with that team was the second half of the season. So we played 84 because of the neutral site games. We played 84 games that year. So the last 42 games, we had the 5th best record in the NHL. Nobody realized it because we were the 8th seed. So we were actually better than people thought. Did we think we could beat Detroit? We're like, if we keep the games close, because we've been playing in close games the whole season, we'll have a chance. Because they were so dynamic offensively with Fedorov, who won the MVP that year, Yzerman,
had a lot of
Cicerelli, Shepard, Coffey. I mean, these guys had so much firepower. They were used to winning 7-2 games, 7-3 games, 6-2 games, but the 3-2 games, we were in our comfort zone. So if it was, we're like, let's just keep it a 1-goal game going into the 3rd period. And what happened? We won the 4 close games, and they won the 3 blowout games. And that was the difference in the series.
Wow, that's incredible. Was it, you get some goaltending too?
And we got some goaltending.
I know.
We got key saves. Archer Zerbe played amazing. He's the reason we won. But we got timely goals, and then you start to believe, you know, we stole game 1.
They start doubting themselves a little bit.
You know what they didn't do? They didn't make adjustments. They would still turn the puck up. They didn't want to dump it in. They just, even in game 7, like the game-winning goal, they turned it over at our blue line, and it led to a transition, and a couple, one mistake would lead to another. So it was, they couldn't adjust because they hadn't been forced to over the season. But they learned, you know what? That was their year 78, 79. Like that was actually, for the Red Wings, that was the beginning of them. They lost the next year to Toronto. Then they went on to win. I think then they lost one more. Then they were 2 or 3 years away from winning the Stanley Cup. But they had to lose to learn how to win, and then they became.
Unfortunately, you have to lose to learn how to win. The right guy had the puck,
except for Vegas,
at the wrong time for Detroit. That's the way. That's what happened, Jamie. You had the puck at the wrong time for Detroit. You tucked it in, top shelf, over the goalie's shoulder.
It was a broken play. It was far side. It was. Yeah. I just jumped on the ice, and Osgood was in the corner, threw it up, and it came off the glass right to me. I call it hockey. Yeah. Now tell us a bit when you guys beat the Flyers.
Well, the Flyers in 1979-80 had just an incredible year. Bobby Clark, Reggie Leach, Billy Barber probably were the highest scoring line in the league. They were phenomenal, and they were veterans. Bobby Clark was still Mr. Intensity. Reggie Leach was still the rifleman. They had a young goaltender, Pete Peters, who had just an outstanding rookie year. They were riding a high. I think Pat Quinn was their coach, and he had them believing in themselves. They had a young group of, Holmgren was young, Linsman was young. I'm still trying to remember.
Bryan Prop.
Bryan Prop was a young kid and a sniper. They still had a mean defense, and so they still had that Philadelphia Flyer philosophy. But we had a pretty tough team too. But we were coming in the playoffs on this little bit of a high. Butch Goring came on. We had a 10-game winning streak going into the playoffs. We're kind of riding the wave. We had an early series against the Triple Crown line. We're gaining confidence. In LA, we beat them in 4 games. Then we go up against the French Connection in Buffalo, and we found a way to get by them. And we didn't think we're saying, wow, we've got our hands full with Buffalo. And we found a way to get by them. Then we go against the Bruins, and they are still the big bad Bruins. O'Reilly, Secord, Jonathan. Every time you said a name, you're like, oh my God. Wednesday, you're scratching your head. Like every one of them is tough, and they can play hockey.
They were mean,
and they were tough. And we make it by them. Now we've got this confidence going into the finals, but we've got our hands full because here's the Philadelphia Flyers, the winningest team in the league. They've had a great season, and it's almost like they're unstoppable. It's almost like it's magical what's happening to them. But Billy Smith turns into a piece of plywood. He makes key saves that are just those inspirational saves that just kind of, my God, just saved the day. We get key goals on the power play. They took a lot of penalties. They wanted to try to intimidate us, and we just weren't retaliating. And that was a big part of our strategy against Boston. And they were taking penalties, and our power play was red hot. So if we don't retaliate, we kind of take advantage, and we did. We got to Pete Peters, all of a sudden they threw Phil Muir in. We got to Phil Muir, they threw Pete Peters back in. Pete turned into a tough goaltender. He's a big goaltender, and he was pretty stingy. But again, we get timely goals. We got one offside call late on game 6, the last game, where it was clearly outside the blue line. Mark Gillies dropped it to Butch Goring. Butch carried it over the blue line. We're all waiting for I think everybody kind of waited for the whistle to blow. Didn't blow. He threw it across to Dwayne Sutter. He gets a goal. It counts. That's one of those things that happen. But Philadelphia tied the game up, and we go into overtime. So was that one of those instances in the game? Well, maybe. But I think Mr. Schneider, the owner of the Philadelphia Flyers, always claims that the Bobby Nystrom goal in overtime was offside. It's not, but I'm not going to argue with Mr. Schneider. Anyway, I'm on the bench, just resting as fast as I can for my next shift. Henning picks the puck up at our blue line, throws up to Tonelli. He crisscrosses with Bobby Nystrom at the far blue line. Tonelli goes in 2-on-1 against Bob Daly, I believe. Throws a cross-ice pass to Nystrom on his backhand. He deflects it over Pete Peters. I'm a champion for the first time. We felt like we just beat the best team in hockey to win the championship. So if you're gonna beat somebody, you want to beat the best in the league. You don't want it to be a fluke. You don't want it to be any one of those things. And to their credit, the Philadelphia Flyers are a classy group. They're tough and they're mean. But for Bobby Clark and all those guys, they said, "You guys are deserving champions." So if you want to lose,
during the handshake,
they're all saying the right, like classy. I still remember.
Was it game 6, right? It was
Game 6,
game 6.
yeah.